Hello, everybody. We're here to have a conversation with Cynthia Li, who is one of our organizers. She lives in Northern California. Is a physician, and has been practicing Zen Qigong for a number of years. She's also an author and is in the process of writing yet another book. So, Cynthia, tell us a little bit about how you came into Zen and Qigong.
I came into it, I think the way that's very common, at least here in America, is because of a health crisis. And I'm a Western trained doctor, and I had a lot of chronic complex conditions that Western medicine doesn't, not only doesn't really approach very well, but doesn't even kind of validate as, as real. So I had chronic fatigue syndrome, I had an autoimmune thyroid condition, and my nervous system, I had a condition called dysautonomia, where the autonomic nervous system that controls largely subconscious functions like breathing, digestion, heart rate, blood pressure, things like that, was really not balanced and synchronized. And it was actually my former midwife who was a Zen and Qigong practitioner, and I saw her after a few years of not having seen her at all, and she mentioned it to me, and so I went with her to a workshop. And then I had a second health crisis, a very serious one. I mean, the first one was serious too. This one was very, very acute. And I was already an integrative doctor by this point, and functional medicine doctor, which is looking at root causes of chronic conditions. And then I was already practicing Qigong as well, and also had been practicing and studying intuitive healing. So kind of a form of energy healing. And yet I had this second crisis. And so it was during that time, that was in 2017, that I really deepened my Qigong practice. And so what I ended up experiencing at that point was a real radical healing. I began healing very quickly, and then came to a place in my health that I hadn't been able to achieve, with all the hard-won efforts that I had done the first time around. I began to read more of Dr. Peng's direct teachings. And I had the books that Teacher Wei had translated of Dr. Peng's teachings, but I hadn't really gone deeply into them. So I began to read them deeply, and then explore YouTube videos of Dr. Peng. But then I was like, wait, who translated these books? And Teacher Wei, I started becoming curious about Teacher Wei. And so I signed up for just one module. I wasn't sure if I was going to resonate or not. Just one module. And in that first session, he talked about the importance of practicing in community and the collective field. He talked about heart to heart. And I don't remember if he talked about emptiness, but I felt the emptiness. I changed my 1 month, my one module to the year-long course, which I had never done before, commit like that. And that was kind of the beginning.
And here you are, an organizer in the world consciousness community.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that experience has transformed you, having encountered Teacher Wei and the world consciousness community?
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the ways, well, the most powerful way is to recognize that there's the chi field, right? There's the enormous energy field just that fills the whole universe, but also is flowing right within me. And everything is interconnected as energy. But then the consciousness field was very powerful to learn about, because suddenly we could bring, we could choose information of love and compassion and healing and bring that into the chi field, right? So the chi field is very neutral and balancing, and then suddenly we could amplify it with the consciousness field and the collective consciousness field, which my individual consciousness was a part of. And it was a really powerful experience for me, difficult. And at the same time, it was the most true calling that I'd ever felt. It was just like, I just knew, nope, this is the path. This is the path. And I have a lot I need to clear. I have old conditioned patterns that are still there. But also being supported by a collective field, not just in terms of like, a universal collective field, but then being supported by community, people who were practicing in community, and then friends that I was making through the community, was really necessary for me to be able to move through those challenges and transform them. And how can we serve the collective field together? So it's I would just say I have a playfulness and a spontaneity that I haven't had, I think, ever in my life.
Cynthia, you really put everything so well, and you understand the teachings of Teacher Wei so clearly. Do you think that that's related to the work that you've done, putting the book together, the Mingjue Awakening book?
Yeah, so the Mingjue Awakening book, which came out this summer 2023, was, again, it wasn't a vision that I had. Oh, I'm gonna edit a book of Teacher Wei's foundational teachings. It was when I started the course, I found myself often, with questions, or, oh, I want to refresh my memory about a particular teaching. And it was difficult for me to find either in the transcript or in the videos. And so again, I think this was just a guidance from the field, but when I found myself kind of wishing for that resource, I just kind of heard like, oh, well then why don't you do it? Why don't you do it? And I've written a memoir, and I had been doing a lot of other writing as well, but I had never edited, much less a book. So I just began again with no questions asked, just following guidance. And I found, that as I deepened into the editing and just organizing the information that was there, that I was really receiving it as a transmission. And sometimes when I look back at the book, I don't even remember the process of putting it together. So it was, it just kind of happened through me.
Well, and I think that it's an amazing accomplishment and work that you've done, and service to the community, because very often many of us feel that the concepts are out of reach, and yet the book makes everything just very clear, very easy, and very flowing. So it's wonderful. I really enjoyed reading it.
Thank you. Well, I feel very honored to have been able to co-create that book with the field, with Teacher Wei.
Cynthia, thank you so much for your time in this interview, and thank you for your playfulness, your joy, and your service.
Thank you, Regina.